Since the latest happenings, scandals, and publications of videos and photos before and during this major equestrian event, the topic and discussion about whether or not we should be allowed to use whips, sticks, or spurs when interacting with horses has flamed up again. Today, I want to give you my vision on this topic and how I see this discussion, and if we maybe can find an answer. So, you have this side of people saying a fat, big no as a principle to using objects that have been designed to eventually inflict pain or at least fear in horses, or they are at least able to do that. So if we think about where spurs and whips come from, they were not designed to pet horses. When we think about the history of riding, it's really much more about functionality and making the horses behave. And we are just now evolving into this more kind and loving relationship with horses. So the things we use in the equestrian world are kind of ancient, they're pretty old, and they had their functions there. And with this paradigm shift of the relationship we have with horses, maybe there needs to be a shift in the tech and things we use as well. So their arguments are valid. Like most horses, they have learned that whips can hurt, and therefore their memory, which is similar to the actual experience, so memory of pain and the actual pain are quite similar in the brain. This is a part about psychology. Horses have learned that the whip can hurt them. This fear of the whip is pretty real for them. So if you use a whip, you hold this memory alive, even if you don't hit your horse with it. And this is causing the horse to behave differently, which is ultimately your reason why you used it in the first place. Therefore, even as kind and well-meant your aids are and the stuff you use, if it's connected to the pain in the past, it's psychologically not that kind anymore. And we really have to be aware of that. And then you have the side of people saying, but I do use the whip very kind and intentionally, and never with pain. I never hit my horse, and with awareness and as an extension of my body after having extinguished the painful memory and replaced it with understanding and maybe even reward. It's also valid. I'm both of these sides. I understand both of these sides, and I make use of these arguments from both of these sides, depending on the situation. So yes, we have this saying, an aid is only as harsh as it hands. And yes, sometimes it doesn't matter if the horse has its own idea about said aid. What it all comes down to, that as often as it is, things aren't black and white. And as so often, this is the biggest pain point, because without being black and white, we can forbid such aids if they are used in the wrong way. And it's the same with the discussion about using bits. Just because some people are kind and soft with whips and spurs doesn't mean the top riders won't continue to use them for enforcing performance, even if that means pain and suffering, right? And they do. Check the news. But also, just because some individuals use the aids to inflict pain on purpose doesn't mean everyone who uses them does too, right? So yes, we're going around in circles. And that's just one example of what's going on in the equestrian world. How do we get out of this, and how do we find an answer? I'll tell you, by going within. You can't look for answers outside of yourself. You can't look for truth through your perception of your senses, because your senses are always limited and formed by what we believe is true. That's a biological fact. Our senses are compromised. The question whether or not we should use certain objects to train a horse is not found in facts about said objects, whether it's black and silver, or iron, or pink and fluffy, or a pool noodle. The answer to it is how and why you want to use an object to achieve what. And that is one for yourself. I can use the whip with my horse without hitting him, without sending him into anxiety while riding. But the reason I would want to use it is because maybe I think he's too slow and he needs to be more forward. Maybe for a good reason, because he needs to lift his back, right? Maybe I can achieve that with the whip. And maybe I ask myself, why is he going faster when I hold the whip? And guess what? Actually, my horse saw. He was really afraid of whips, and I taught him not to be afraid anymore. And guess what happens when I hold the whip? Absolutely nothing. Coming back to the example, so to achieve my goal to get him faster, what would I need to do with the whip? Exactly. And then, dear good people, we have forgotten about the most important question. Why isn't he going faster on my voice commands alone? Maybe it's because my voice commands aren't as clear as I thought. Maybe I interfere with the commands through my body language or my own balance. Or maybe he's not feeling that good today. And if I get a whip to make him do what I want, I would probably miss all those signs that there is something wrong. So I can only ask my horse to do something for me. And if I ask, I get an answer, and then I have to deal with this answer and not force the answer to be anything else. And I can ask with the whip the same things I can ask with my voice or my pinky. It depends on how I teach it, and I can choose to not use a whip and get creative to find other cues, not because a whip is inherently bad, but because the whip has a bad reputation and I don't want to be a role model anymore using something that others use to hurt horses with. If a kid sees me asking for a trick with nothing but my body language, how cool is that? Instead of seeing a stick like it sees it everywhere, not being able to make the distinction of when it's used friendly and when it isn't. Okay, folks, that's enough about the whip. Spurs are a different topic for me because I can use a whip in groundwork and it has a total different intention when I use it for asking a trick from the ground than when I use it for riding. Spurs are for riding only. It makes no sense to use spurs in groundwork, so this whole topic can be cut in half. Spurs are purely a tactile cue, while a whip holds a visual cue as well. And the tactile cue is always to be used with great precision and awareness. So if you are a very confident rider and you teach a cool trick with tactile cues in the saddle and spurs help you with that, cool. But I bet you could do it without them as well. For going faster, higher, more active, forward, engaging, whatever you call it, I think they are simply not necessary. So again, ask yourself why and for what. And if you haven't missed the because from your horse up front. If we all collectively choose to always want the best for our horses, becoming good for horses, not with horses, always stay on our path of fairness and kindness and granting them the same respect and understanding we ask from them, these discussions ultimately become obsolete because every single one of us makes the right choice in the eyes of horse welfare without needing to ban or restrict anything. And it's a butterfly effect. Always has, always will. We decide what trendy and cool is and what others strive after. The thing in the equestrian industry is just that so few dare to speak up to change the status quo, because it's an environment of gaslighting, blaming, patronizing, and rejecting. But if we realize we are a lot, this all can change, and it can change fast. This is our time. And if you're really intrigued by these discussions and you want to explore your own ethic code and your own norms and values in horse training and horse handling, and if you want to learn more about all these little signs we can read from our horses and how we can approach them in fairness and kindness, I wholeheartedly invite you to join me on my new platform. The platform has a holistic course where we start with learning about anatomy, physiology, conformation, body language, and so on. And there are no limits to where this will grow to. There's also a community connected to the course, which is a big part of making a change and revolutionizing the industry, because we who believe in a new world for horses need to stick together. And I'm there too. You can ask me any question, join group callings, or make use of the one-on-one sessions. The platform is called Confident Connection, Mastering Horse Behavior, and you can look it up on my website, on my social media, or you can send me a message to directly ask to join it. The platform is open now and it's still growing. That's why you get a real good discount for now. If you want to join me and push this movement further, go for the early bird right now before the price go up and be part of the content as well. I'm open for any submission on topics and material you want to discuss until the places are filled. So be the change you want to see in this world, and I'm excited to see you there.